What's up guys, it's Holly from The Run Experience. Today I'm going to give you a kettlebell swing strength workout for runners. I'm going to tell you how to do a kettlebell swing if you've never done one, and also tell you about why we love kettlebells to strengthen the hips, increase the power for running, all that good stuff. And I will finish with a workout for you guys on how you can practice these swings. We're going to first get into that kettlebell swing. If you've never even heard about what this is, this will be your starting point for sure. This is 12 kilograms, but it actually translates to about 26 pounds. It's a good starting point for men and women. It's a good, easy starting point for you for sure. So we're just going to take a look at how you pick this thing up to start. So I'm going to turn this way. First and foremost, you want to always deadlift a kettlebell off the ground. If you haven't done a deadlift before, I'm just going to briefly go over that. The most important thing being abs are turned on the whole time, hips sit back, and basically you're just protecting your low back the whole time using your legs to pick it up. So I'm just going to sit my hips back, tight core, and then I'm also going to keep my shoulders back as well. Just picking this up right between my legs, like this. I have my lats turned on, everything's pulled down. And the way we're gonna start is just the same way, sitting those hips back, but I'm gonna keep this thing right high between my legs, so not letting it drop too low. So I'm gonna start little, and I'm just gonna get a feel for it. So just kind of pushing the hips forward. They'll be a little bit quicker at first. As I start to find this hinging motion, it'll start to come up maybe a little bit higher. It kind of does its own thing. It's just your hips in charge of bringing it up and putting it down. A couple other things to think about just as we get into the beginning of this is that mostly everything is controlled from right here. So it's not that you're lifting it up and putting it down at all. You'll feel kettlebells have all of their weight at the back side of it. So basically that's going to take over for momentum. So don't think you're creating that yourself. The more you thrust the hips, the higher it will go. And also a heavier weight will go higher as well once you get that kind of strength. So I'm just going to show you a few more just like this. Picking it up, right? Standing up tall. And I'm also pressing my knees out like I would in a squat to keep my feet flat and twisted on the ground. Coming up a little higher. My shoulders are still staying down the whole time, so I'm not letting them hike up. And that's what those look like. So that's with a 26-pound kettlebell. As you get heavier, it may not go as high, which is totally fine. Even to eye level is perfectly great, and you are working on something there. The higher you get, the more core stability it requires. So eventually you should get to a point where you're bringing it all the way up overhead to coming to vertical. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to start low. You can always go gradual. And then when I come overhead, I'm making sure to keep ribs down, stomach on, and butt squeezed at the top, just like this. That's the progression, but always remember you can start low and work your way up. Even if you're lifting something you've lifted a million times, that's a good way to do it without hurting yourself. That is the kettlebell swing. Before we get into this workout, I want to hit a couple of common errors that you may run into on the way, and we want to hit those before we get into actually practicing these for a long period of time. So the first one is going to be the speed at which you do the kettlebell swing. Trying to do these slow as you start to get into it is not going to work. It's very dynamic. It starts with a fast hips back and coming forward with a big snap of the hips as well. So trying to do this slow will immediately throw off that rhythm of the kettlebell. So that weight does help with the momentum, but only if you're initiating with quick hips. I'm just going to show you what it looks like to start fast and to start getting slow and what you could run into. So just a couple to warm up, getting a little bit higher. So if I start to slow down my hips, you can see that it's just not, it doesn't really want to follow through. And then if anything, the weight just keeps dropping down and there's no elevation anymore. So the whole purpose of this, right, is to drive the hips forward for better running, better form there. And that's not being worked on as soon as we slow it down. So just remember, drive the hips forward, drive the hips back with speed. The other thing we can run into is it gets a little squatty. So you may start here with a slight bend of the knees with the hips hinging back, all nice and good, but as you start to get tired or the form falls apart, sometimes the legs can start to bend so much and we actually end up coming upright. So instead of using that hinge for the power of the hips, we end up kind of staying about here. And what that looks like after a few is you start bending a little bit more and almost leaning back. And again, not the purpose of the kettlebell swing, and also my whole back turns off that way. So the way we were driving down before with everything here and a good tight hip position, we lose that when we start to just make it this upright. It basically becomes a squat with some weight dangerously swinging around in front of you. So look out for those as we go into this next workout. To put it simply, it's going to be 5 rounds. You're going to be working and resting, alternating those two, and you're just going to be doing kettlebell swings. So it's going to be a great way to practice and a great way to work the whole body. You will be sweating by the end of this. We're going to break this into 3 levels based on your experience with kettlebell swings. So if this is the first time you've ever done it, you're just getting some practice. You're going to be working for 20 seconds and resting for 40, 5 rounds of that. We're not going to worry about how many reps you do or how high you're swinging it. Basically, I just want you to pick a weight that you can control and a height that you can control the whole time. Good mechanics, that's what you're working on, basically 5 rounds of practice, 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off. Upwards from there, if you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, you can do 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off. Again, picking a weight that good form all the way through, but maybe something a little bit more challenging for you. The other thing is, when you first pick this kettlebell up, you can get a good sense of like, is this just going to be impossible from the beginning before you're even getting into that movement? Of course, you can try a couple of those small ones, like I said, just to give it a feel. But again, the worst that happens is it's just not swinging as high as you want it to. The mechanics are always the same, no matter what weight you're at. Lastly, if you're feeling super comfortable with this, you're looking for just a good overall full body workout, you'll do 5 rounds of working for 40 seconds and resting for 20 seconds. You can kind of look at your reps in that one if you want to try to keep the same number as your first round. That's a good way to look at it. Just good mechanics all the way through. If you're going all the way overhead, making sure you're never splaying through the ribs here, always keeping everything tight, butt tight the whole time. And a last reminder that the hips are going back so that the knees are never forward over the toes. You always want those guys right over the ankles, and that will keep you protected there. So that's the whole workout, 5 rounds, working and resting. Feel free to modify as you like and pick a weight that works for you, but this one's a good one. Guys, kettlebells are not the only thing that's going to get you strong. We came up with a ton of awesome strength body weight exercises you can do at home, at a gym if you have it, but they're totally doable in your living room if you have a few minutes. All you can do is click the link in the video and we will send you 2 weeks free strength workouts, also some good injury prevention and mobility stuff in there. And you can check those out by clicking the link. You drop your name and email, we'll send those to you. You can also click the link into the description if you need. And if you liked this video on kettlebell swings, make sure you hit that like button. Throw us a comment if you want a question about anything on the workout you didn't understand. We're happy to answer those. And lastly, subscribe to the channel. These videos are for you guys. We want to make sure you see each and every one of them. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I think that's all we got for you. We'll catch you in the next video.